We are back for another episode of Love It There. Hope everybody had a wonderful Valentine's Day. Hope everybody enjoyed watching the Super Bowl this past weekend. You watched, Hallie, right?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, I feel like
I didn't want the Chiefs to win, despite my past love for Patrick Mahomes, apparently. But I was rooting for the 49ers, but they didn't pull it out, which was sad. But it was funny because I was watching it with my boyfriend and all of his friends, and they all like are super into sports betting, which is just like funny to me. And they all, for some reason, bet on the coin toss. And they all bet tails on the coin toss, and it was heads. But then it was tails for overtime, so they were all so sad. But
they should have bet on that. I heard there was also a bet on whether or not Reba McEntire was going to be showing cleavage when she sang the national anthem. So,
oh my gosh.
And it was like questionable. It was like a low cut, but I think technically it was no cleavage.
Yeah, like how do they draw the line for that?
Yeah, I don't know who was making that call.
That's crazy.
Well, okay, but I was originally cheering for the 49ers, and then one of our friends that was at our house watching the Super Bowl, he went to the game that the Lions played against the 49ers, and he said the 49ers fans were all so obnoxious that it was like really pissing him off, and he was like, I cannot even cheer for the 49ers at all. So
why?
Then
what were they doing?
He said at first when they got there before the game started that all the 49ers fans, and obviously this is a blanket statement for a couple fans that he interacted with. I know not every single fan is like this, but he said this big group that was seated by them were kind of talking down to them like, oh, it's so cool that Detroit even made it to this point, and what an accomplishment for you guys to even get here, and was kind of like condescending towards the Lions team as a whole. And then obviously the Lions were like winning the whole first half. And then by the time then when San Francisco started to score, then they started like cursing at the group of Lions fans that he was with, and were just like trying to fight them and being so obnoxious. So then after he was saying all that, I was like, okay, well, I truly don't care who wins. At this point, I'm just here for Usher.
Yeah. Usher was so good. I loved it.
I feel like we need to discuss, because I haven't even talked to you about what your thoughts were on the halftime show.
Well, I was upset because my favorite song of all time is Without You by Usher, and he didn't even sing it. And I was so excited for that. I know he needed David as a guest star, but he had literally everyone else as a guest star. It was funny because one of the people I was with was like, oh my gosh, I hope Lil Jon is performing. And we're like, who is Lil Jon? Like, what are you talking about? And he was like, oh, he's in this song and this song. And we were like, yeah, okay, like no way this rando is gonna be there. And then he was there. Like every single guest star was there, and Lil Jon came out. And we were
the cameos were so unexpected. One of our friends said that they heard Justin Bieber was going to come out. So I was so excited for that.
That was a thing.
Yeah. But okay, what did you think of Usher and Alicia Keys?
A lot was going on. I was a little uncomfortable, honestly. I mean, I know Usher's not married, but Alicia is a married woman, and there was a lot happening.
I felt like she was trying to do her thing, and Usher was just, getting a little close and cozy. So I looked up because I'm like, I don't know if he's married or what. And he applied, apparently, when I Googled this, all these reports were saying that when Usher went to Vegas, he applied for a marriage license with his longtime girlfriend. So everybody's like, oh, they're going to get married while they're in Vegas. And so then I was like, me and my friend were talking about it. We're like, okay, so this is like his bachelor party then. He's doing like his last hurrah with Alicia Keys before he gets married. But then I expected, this morning, this is Monday, the day after Super Bowl that we're recording this. I expected today when I went on to Google that it would say like, Usher and longtime girlfriend wed in the Vegas chapel, but there was no reports on that. So I'm thinking she saw the performance and she had to have a little talking to Mr. Usher.
She was like, really, on national television. Right. Interesting. Okay.
Oh, man. But when he whipped his shirt off, that was just hilarious to
Oh,
me.
there were like 35-year-old women all over the country just like going crazy.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I thought that was great. I was like, I saw how sweaty you were. I'm sure you just
Oh
wanted to
yeah. We were like
wanted
all
to strip.
commenting on that. We were like, he's sweating so much. But he was working hard out
I
there
was
with
gonna
Alicia
say,
Keys. So
yeah, his dance moves were pretty good.
yeah.
So
Oh, I was impressed for
then
sure.
when he came out in the rollerblades, I was shook. I was
I
like,
was not
"What
expecting
is
that.
this?" So much was going on.
No, so much was happening, but I loved it. It was great.
Yeah, it was awesome. It kept me entertained. I wanted another halftime show to get me through the overtime, but
I know.
yeah,
It was long.
that was needed. But okay, we have a great episode for you guys today. I am so excited about it. We are going to talk all about the Amalfi Coast. I've never been. It's been a dream destination. This was a place that Hallie and I were going to go with our mom on our summer 2020 trip that got canceled due to COVID. We had the cutest little place booked and so sad, but Hallie's gotten to go now, so we are going to hear all about her recommendations and thoughts. So enjoy today's episode on the Amalfi Coast, Italy. Okay, first off, Hallie, can you explain what exactly is considered the Amalfi Coast? Because Amalfi is a city in Italy, but the Amalfi Coast encompasses more than that, right?
Right. So the Amalfi Coast is technically considered this like 30-ish mile stretch of coastline on the west coast of Italy. And the northern part of it is Naples. And then the southernmost end is considered Salerno. So basically it's from like the Gulf of Naples to the Gulf of Salerno. And that's in between that is considered the Amalfi Coast.
Okay. And what's so special about it? I mean, you hear so much about it. The Amalfi Coast, Amalfi. What is the hype?
Yeah, seriously, it's like on my Instagram all the time.
Right. Yeah.
Like I feel like you see so much of it. Basically, it's just super, super picturesque, which is why you're always seeing pictures of it. It seriously is like, it's really cool to see when you're there. It's known for like, there's lots of like cliffs. It's a very rugged shoreline. And so there's all these like fishing villages and towns that are just literally built into the sides of these cliffs. And it's just crazy to see. Beautiful ocean views because you're like up so high and then you just get such a good view of the coast. It's amazing. It's also one of the UNESCO World Heritage Sites, which is basically a site that's protected internationally to preserve some type of culture or history or science. So like other UNESCO World Heritage Sites are like the Egyptian pyramids or the Great Barrier Reef, but like the Amalfi Coast is also one of those. So just for like global context. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
so it's like
cool.
pretty cool and it's very well protected to like in order to preserve it because of how different it is and how much history is there. So it's really cool. There's lots of like small quaint beaches along the entire coast. They're also known for lemons. So everything there has lemons on it or is served with lemon or with limoncello. So lemons are just everywhere, which I didn't know going into it. So I was like a little caught off guard. But
we just ordered wallpaper for our bathroom and it's called Amalfi Coast because it has lemons on it. And it's so cute. I can't wait to wallpaper our bathroom.
Is wallpaper coming back?
I just wanted our little half bath to have a fun, colorful wallpaper because the rest of our house is very neutral and calming.
True.
But
no, that's fun. I like that move.
I wanted a fun, colorful bathroom. So we got Amalfi Coast wallpaper.
Ah, love it. Wow.
Wait, did you try limoncello?
I didn't because, okay, well, I'm going to get to this.
Okay.
Basically, my experience here was incredibly hectic and we didn't get as much time as we expected. But we'll get to that.
Wouldn't be a Hallie study abroad story if there wasn't some crazy hectic adventure.
It's clearly, well, okay, no, I was going to say it's clearly a lack of planning and organization on my end, but it's not even because like the Valencia trip, that was because of like we got stranded there because of something that was completely out of our control.
Yeah.
And same with what happened when we were in Amalfi. So, but I'll get to that in a little bit.
Okay. Wait, I wanted to ask about the beaches. Are they rocky or is it sandy
Yeah,
beaches? It's
very rocky,
Okay.
which
Okay.
is like pretty standard for
Yeah.
the places in Italy that we went.
So do you have to do beach clubs or were there public beaches that you could go to?
No, there's a public beach both in Salerno, which is where our Airbnb was, and in Amalfi and Positano. There's sections of it that have like very nice chairs that you have to pay for,
Okay.
or you can like lay on the rocks for free.
Okay. Yeah.
Which
yeah.
is what we did. But
Okay.
yeah, I wouldn't recommend that. It wasn't very comfortable.
Okay. So what else is the Amalfi Coast known for?
If you've seen pictures of Amalfi, you'll know that it's all these like colorful, picturesque towns. So if you've seen like the big hills and like cliffs with all the colorful little buildings, those are everywhere. It's so cute, so colorful. And then you have like the blue of the ocean. It's just, it's great. So picturesque. That's like the only way I can describe it.
Okay, so if all the towns are basically on the side of the cliffs, how is there an easy way to get there and to travel between towns, or what's that like?
Yeah, it's a little more difficult than I knew going into it. This is like wasn't something that I really thought about. I was just like, oh, like we'll just go and like travel from town to town like you would travel from Milan to Como, or you know, I wasn't really thinking about the fact that these towns are literally built into the sides of cliffs, so it's a little more challenging to get from place to place. But basically what we did is we took a high-speed train into Naples, which is what I think the best way to get to the coast is through Naples. And then from there you can either take a train to another smaller regional train station, or you can rent a car from Naples and drive on like the highway that goes along the coast, but only do that if you like are an adrenaline junkie, because I'm going to get to this later, but this road is insane. Okay.
And there's just one main road.
There is one main road and it is one lane for 2 lanes, two-way traffic.
And it's right on the coast.
Side of a cliff.
Yeah. Okay.
It's so scary.
Yeah.
But the best option is definitely to ferry from town to town. I think that's what most people do, is they get to Naples and then they'll get on a ferry, which will take them to whatever town they happen to be staying in on the coast.
Okay, so how were the ferries then? How was that whole experience? Was that fine?
Well, everyone told us that the ferries are super easy to use, super reliable. Definitely use the ferries. So we were like, okay, great. That's our plan. We got there. On the first day, we were going to take the ferry from Salerno to Amalfi in the Positano area, which is like a little further north. And that's where like the big tourist hotspot area is. So we go to the ferry station, or like the ferry port, on the first day, and they were like, oh, all the ferries are closed because the water is too rough. And we were like, oh, okay. Do you should we just come back tomorrow then? And then they were like, yeah, like it's just kind of random. Like the water is just really rough. Like you can try again tomorrow and like see what the water's like then. We're like, okay. We were originally planning on like taking our first day and like going to different towns, but we're like, well, we'll just stay in Salerno for today and then move our like travel day to tomorrow. So we're like, no worries, no problem. We like stayed in Salerno, went to like a little beach there, just like explored that town, and it was great. So then the next day we go to get on the ferry and they're like, sorry, the ferries are closed, the water's too rough. And we're like, what the heck?
Did it look rough, like when you were looking at the water?
Not really. Like it looked normal. We were like, okay. Like obviously we don't know how it works, so we're like not gonna question it. But we're like, okay, so how do we get to like where we want to go? And he's like, oh, take the bus, whatever. We're like, okay, like a little inconvenient, but it's fine. So they were saying that the water was too rough, but later we had heard from people that 2 days before we got to Salerno, there was a guy driving his speedboat drunk that drove into a ferry boat that was trying to port at the Salerno port. So
Oh
we
my
literally just
gosh.
drove right into it. Yeah. And so people were saying that they were saying the water was too rough, but really they think that they were like dealing with the
That was
after
the
effects of
issue.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that they had to like close down for a few days to like clean all of that up. And like,
Yeah.
I'm sure there were probably lawsuits going on there and
Right.
a whole bunch of issues. So that was just like an inconvenient issue that we had to work around that we didn't
Oh my
plan for
gosh.
and is not a common occurrence, is what
Right.
we were told. So we just got really unlucky. But basically, we were like, okay, no worries. We'll just get on the bus. And we didn't think it would be a big deal. It was a big deal. Okay.
Oh no.
The bus ride was a fiasco.
Oh
And
gosh.
a couple of for the Q&A episode, we had a question that we like didn't get to in that episode, but it was like, what was your worst like experience with like rude tourists?
Mm.
And it was trying to get on this bus in Salerno because nobody can get on the ferries. It's peak travel season. Everybody's trying to go from town to town. So there are literally hundreds of people lined up to get on like a charter bus. And obviously you can't fit 100 people. These
Right.
buses pull up to Salerno and they're like already full. Like each of
Oh
them
my
had like
gosh.
5 seats on them open because they had like
Right.
been to other towns before they got to us. And so we had to wait there for like over an hour till we even got on a bus. And people are like pushing each other down, cussing at each other, yelling at the bus driver, being like,
Oh
let
my.
us on, let us on. Like it was crazy.
Like there's anything the bus driver can do. If it's full, it's
Exactly.
full.
Yeah, it was crazy. But I mean, like, there were also people that had to get to work. Like, not only
Yeah.
was it like
Right.
tourists, but there were also people that like literally had to get to their job and like can't because of all these crazy tourists.
What a
So,
mess.
yeah, it was crazy. But we finally get on a bus eventually. But like I said, these buses are crammed full. I'm the last person to get on the bus. Like me and my friends are in front of me. I'm the last one on. They shut the door behind me. I am smushed up against the door of the bus.
Gosh.
So you know like the little steps you like walk up to get on the bus? Like
Yeah.
me and
That's
all
where
my
you are.
friends are standing on those steps, smushed up against the door. Like if the door's open, I'm flying out.
Right.
So no safety on this
Yeah.
bus at all. We're all just like standing there trying to hold on because like I said, these roads are crazy windy, so narrow. So like anytime another car or bus had to pass us, we're like coming to a complete stop. So it's constant stop and go. Every time the bus would go around a corner, they like honk the horn so that like people around the corner know that they're coming.
Oh my
So it was
gosh.
constant stopping, constant horn honking, constant curving around these winding roads. For context, the ferry ride from Salerno to Amalfi is supposed to take about 30 minutes.
Okay.
This bus ride took 2 hours.
Oh my gosh. And
It
it's
was
not even just like
insane.
2 hours of peacefulness, it's 2 hours of
Chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have videos of the bus driver like yelling at people as like cars are trying to pass us on the other side, and the bus driver just opens the windows and starts like screaming at people because they're like, you're not gonna make it, like I don't know, something in Italian. I don't even know what he's saying, but like people are just yelling at each other. We're like, oh my god, what is going on? It was crazy.
Yikes.
But since we were on the bus for so long, it gave us a lot of time to get to know the people that were around us.
Okay,
so
good.
we ended
Silver
up
linings.
Exactly. We ended up befriending these 2 women from Argentina. And they were like 2 moms with like grown children, and they're just like on their like vacation, like best friends together.
Cute.
Vacationing for the summer, and they totally took me and my friends under their wing.
Aww.
Because we could like speak a little bit of Spanish, you know, so we're like talking to them. They love us. They're like, oh, like, where are you guys from? You know, making small talk, whatever. We're like, we have no idea like how these buses work. Like we just got on this bus. We honestly don't even know where we're going. Like we had no idea what was happening. And they were like, oh, girls, don't worry. We got you. Like we know how it works. Like we've got it figured out.
Perfect.
So they totally showed us what we needed to do. We never would have gotten where we needed to go without them. because we get dropped off in Amalfi, which is like the next town north from Salerno, after 2 hours. Okay.
Right, of course.
2 hours have gone by. We are over this.
Whew.
And we get off and they're like, okay, now we need to get on another bus. And we're like, oh, no. Like,
To go
please.
where?
To go to Positano. They're like, you don't want to go to...
like,
they were like,
they told
Amalfi
you.
is not the town to go to. We were planning on just going to Amalfi. They were
Yeah.
like, no, like, don't go to Amalfi. Positano's way better. Trust. Like, don't do it. And we were like, oh, okay. Like, we don't know.
Sure.
We just assumed Amalfi because it's called
Amalfi
Coast. Like I said, we literally did no research. We're just dumb. So they're like, no, we have to get on this other bus to go to Positano. We're like, oh my God. So we wait in another line to get on another bus. This time we actually get a seat. So that was a plus.
Yeah.
And then we get back on the curvy, windy cliff roads to go to Positano, which was another like hour-long bus ride.
Wow.
And they're like making stops like along the way because there's like major towns, but along the whole drive are like tiny little villages.
Yeah.
So they're like making stops along the way at these little villages, which I will say was another plus of taking the bus, is we got to see a lot more of these little towns and like quaint villages that we never would have seen from the water. So that was kind of cool, but I wouldn't say it was worth it.
Yeah, not worth it. You're just trying to find the positives of the bus ride.
I was trying so hard to be positive. I was sitting there like, oh my God.
I respect the positive perspective you're trying to have with this.
Yeah. So we stop at like one of these random towns to like pick people up. And the ladies that we're with, which I'll give you their names because they're iconic. They're going to be with us for the rest of the story. They're Victoria and Caro. Okay. Shout out Victoria and Caro from Argentina. Love you ladies. We still follow each other on Instagram. They always like comment on my stories.
Are you serious?
That's serious. They are like my biggest supporters. I love them so much.
Oh my gosh. I love that.
But yeah, so they like all of a sudden they're like, okay, girls, we're getting off here. And we're like literally in the middle of nowhere. We're like, this is not Positano. Like, where are we? They're like, no, we're getting off here. Don't worry. We're like,
so you trust them and you just follow.
I mean, these are our guardian angels. So like, we're just like, okay, sure. Like, whatever you guys say. So we get off at this random stop. No civilization, just like road and a cliff.
Okay.
We're like, okay, cool. They're like, we're just going to walk. Because on these roads, not only it's a single lane road, not only are there 2 lanes of traffic trying to go on this single road, but there's tons of pedestrians, like people like hiking and bikers. It's a big like
Yikes.
People.
That scares me.
Yeah, it's like a thing to hike the road because then you are like on the coast the whole time and you get to see all the towns, but it's like so dangerous.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're going to hike for a little bit to get to Positano instead of like staying on the bus. And
were you
like,
wearing like hiking? Like what shoes were you wearing?
We're in swimsuits. Literally swimsuits. And I'm in like my Birkenstocks, I think.
Right.
Like nothing to hike. But
what
I mean,
were
it's like
Victoria
a
and Caro
road,
wearing?
So.
Were they wearing like
tennis
shoes?
They were so prepared. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
They were big hikers. Yeah, they knew. So Victoria and Caro lead us on this hike. It's like we walk for like 30 minutes to get to Positano. But it was so great. This was like honestly probably one of my like favorite parts about the whole trip because we got the best pictures. We saw these like there's all these beaches, these like tiny little beaches that you have to literally walk down the cliff to get to. Like there's like hundreds of steps down to these beaches, but they're so private and like isolated from everyone. And so we like, and there were waterfalls that we got to see and, you know, stuff that we just like wouldn't have even been able to appreciate from the bus window.
Right.
So,
or the ferry.
Or the ferry, exactly. So that ended up being really, really cool. And they like, I don't know how they said they had like hiked the road. They'd been there for a few days and they had like been hiking. So they knew like where the good spots were.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was great. And then we finally got to Positano. And it was also nice because we got to walk like all the way down through the village of Positano, whereas the ferry would have just like dropped us off at the port, which is like
Right.
at the very bottom. And so like we probably wouldn't have wanted to walk like all the way up the cliff to like see
Sure.
the whole thing. But we
Yeah.
like came from the top and got to walk all the way down. So it was really cool. We got to see a lot. It was great. And so once we got there, we just spent the day on the beach with Victoria and Caro, and it was
Oh, you
so
spent like the whole
fun.
day with them?
Oh, yes, the entire day. They were our
That is
besties. Yeah,
amazing.
it was so great. So yeah, we're hanging with them on the beach. We're like sharing life stories. It was great. We did some like shopping, walking around. There's so many cute little shops in Positano, cute restaurants. It was so romantic. There were so many couples there. It was just like it's so like each town is so cut off, like so isolated that it's like it almost felt like its own like all-inclusive resort kind of
Oh,
thing.
yeah,
Like cuz it
cool.
felt just almost like walled off from everything
Yeah.
else. I don't know how to describe it. It was really cool. I would definitely say Positano, they like Victoria and Caro were right. Positano is the place to be. That's where like the pictures that you see of the Amalfi Coast are in Positano. It's
Positano,
not in
okay.
Amalfi. Basically, when we got to Positano, Victoria and Caro go to the ferry station there, or like the port. I keep calling it a station, but it's a port. It's
Yeah.
not a train. And they go up and talk to the people, and they're like trying to figure out, because the ferries are running from Positano.
Okay,
So
but
we're
they
like
weren't from Salerno.
but they weren't from Salerno. So like the water
Okay.
was fine in Positano, but not in Salerno. Like it made no sense.
Yeah, that's where
So
the
they
drunk
go
boat driver came into play.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're talking to the people and they're like, can we get on a ferry back to Salerno? Because we're like, at this point, like it was like a 4-hour trip to get to
Right.
Positano
Yeah,
finally.
you don't want to do that again
And it's
on
like,
the way
if we have to do
back.
that again, it's just like a nightmare.
After you've spent all day at the beach and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. We're like sweaty. No. And they figure out that there's ferries that are going back to Positano.
Great.
From Positano back to Salerno. Yeah. So we're like so confused because we're like, how are there not ferries coming here, but there's ferries going back? Like, I don't know. The whole thing just made no sense. So they get us ferry tickets because they're bosses. We like never would have known to do that. We would have just like sucked it up and gone back on the bus. Like,
assumed
I don't
that
know.
you had to do that. Yeah.
Exactly. But they're like, they figured it out. They got us our tickets. We're
They
good.
truly were your guardian angels.
They were. Like, we would never have made it. Like, I think we probably would have been stranded in Positano and like never made it back.
What's that one Nicholas Sparks movie, Safe Haven? That's what I'm picturing, where like you get to the end of your trip and then they like disappear. They're like ghosts, you know, and you realize the whole time they weren't even real, but they just
real.
like
That's
got you
like
there
seriously
safely.
what it was. Well, because then we're like on the ferry ride home, which was so glorious. Took 45 minutes to get back to Salerno, and it literally took 4 hours on the bus. It was insane. But we get back. It's such a peaceful journey. We're just like enjoying our last few moments with Victoria and Caro before we have to part ways. But it was so funny because we're like talking about our drama back home because, you know, like we're 3 college girls and they're moms. So they're like wanting the drama. They're like trying to live through us, you know? So they're asking us like, so girls, like any boys back home, like blah, blah, blah. And one of my friends was like, yeah, I actually like kind of want your guys' advice on something, because she has been like, at this point, she was talking to this guy that she met on spring break in Daytona, Florida, who goes to college in Tennessee, and we go to college in Indiana.
Right.
They met in Florida and like really hit it off, and they've been texting like every single day since, but like haven't seen each other since spring break, and it's July at this point.
Right.
And he doesn't have a car, but Reagan does, my friend who I'm talking about here.
Right.
And so she was like, I don't know like what to do, because like he texts me all the time, like, but obviously like this isn't gonna turn into anything, so like I don't know. And I think it was Victoria, she was like, and they're like, their English is like pretty spotty, so they're like trying to speak to us in English, but it's like a little bit broken. So she's like, so like, do you think this is gonna be a relationship, or is it more of a touch and go? And we were all like, Oh my gosh, that's like the greatest thing ever. Touch and go.
Touch
Like,
and go.
why do we not use that phrase in
Right.
English? It's like
It makes
it
sense.
perfectly explains
A
a
little
little
touch and
like a
go.
little hookup, a little touch and go. Like, I love it.
It's so
So
much
we
classier than, like, friends with benefits.
Oh, exactly. Exactly. And the way, like, in her accent, she was like, a little touch and go. It was like
Right.
so funny. But yeah, so we were like dying at that. But
Yeah, we
yeah,
need to bring that to the US.
it's like
Get
my
that
favorite
into the
phrase ever.
vocab.
Yeah. Little touch and go. But yeah, so then we finally get back to the port in Salerno and we like got off the boat and just like went our separate ways on
Oh
the
my
path
gosh,
and we were
so
like
sad.
waving goodbye. Like, it was so sad. But then they like kept texting us for the rest of our trip and they were like checking in on us and making sure we were doing okay. And like it
That
was
is
just
so
so
sweet.
sweet. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Those are just the greatest little moments of travel that are so unexpected. You go to the Amalfi
Yeah.
Coast expecting to see, the beautiful coastline and the beaches and the cliffs, and you unexpectedly come out with these middle-aged women who are your saving grace. Like, that's
Yes.
just awesome. And now
Yeah.
you
No, it's
still
great.
follow each other on Instagram. I think that's hilarious.
Oh, I will never forget Victoria and Caro. They forever have a special place in my heart. And it's just like so cool. They're like literally from Argentina. Like, never thought I would like come into contact with people from
Oh
Argentina.
my
And
gosh,
like,
yeah.
I don't know. It was cool.
Yeah, I love that. Okay,
Yeah.
so you guys stayed in Salerno and then
hmm
visited Positano, got to see some of the other towns along the coast. Were you happy that you stayed in Salerno, or what do you think is the best place that you would recommend to stay along the coast?
So we decided to stay in Salerno because basically it was the cheapest
Okay.
because it is further away from like the Amalfi Positano area, which is like what you hear about, like the very
Right.
touristy areas. Everything's super expensive there. But I mean, you have the conveniences of not having to deal with the ferries and the buses. And in case like something goes wrong or the water's too rough, you don't have to worry about it, which is
Mhm.
super nice.
Yeah.
But we didn't really know that going into it. So we stayed in
Right.
Salerno because it was significantly cheaper. I honestly really liked it. It was not touristy at all. Like,
Okay.
everybody there was felt I to me it felt like most people were locals.
Okay, that's
We like
cool.
we went to restaurants and like people did not speak English. Like,
Wow.
yeah. So it was a very different experience because we had been going to all these super touristy areas
Right.
and then to go somewhere where it was like a little smaller, felt a little more authentic. It was just a very different experience, which I'm like glad I got to have.
Right.
But it was nice. It has its own train station, has its own ferry port. So as long as everything goes to plan, it should have been very convenient and fine, but
Right.
it's just a risk that you take
Right.
for a
Okay,
cheaper
fair.
price. And then like I said, then the next like big town north is Amalfi, which is like the main port, very touristy, more developed. It kind of sits in a valley between two cliffs, so it's a little flatter and a little
Okay.
easier to get around. So I would say if you're somebody that like doesn't do well with lots of stairs or lots of walking, I would recommend staying in Amalfi because literally, like, even these like super nice resorts that you see in Positano are literally on cliffs that you have to like carry your suitcases like all the way
Right.
up, like a ton of stairs to get there. And like, as luxurious as they are, it's like not what you expect of like a normal beach resort.
Yeah.
It's a little different. So if you're wanting to experience the Amalfi Coast, but not a big fan of doing all the stairs, all the climbing, I would recommend staying in Amalfi for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's very developed. There's lots of restaurants there too, lots of things to do. It's really cool.
Okay.
But overall, I would say Positano, definitely the place to be. Like I said, all the pictures you've seen of Amalfi Coast are in Positano. It's the
Mhm.
most picturesque, the most breathtaking for sure. It still feels quaint, like I said, because it is still like kind of removed from everything.
Yeah.
So even though it is like really touristy, it still feels like you're in a little Italian town.
Yeah.
And then Naples, which is the northernmost part of Amalfi Coast, we met some people when we were in Positano that said that they went into, like, they took the train into Naples and then rented a car and drove from Naples to Positano. And
Okay.
they were like, don't do that. Like, we regret staying in Naples because they said it's like kind of sketch, kind of run down, a little dirtier, felt a little less safe, which I have heard from a lot of my friends that have been there.
Really?
But I can't personally speak on Naples because we didn't go there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've heard from multiple people to kind of like, you don't need to stop in Naples. It's nothing like great to see. I would avoid it if you like don't need to be there.
Didn't you take the train into Naples though?
Yeah, but we like
But then
didn't
you
even
just, like,
leave the
got
train
right out.
station. Yeah.
Okay. So you
So it's
didn't
like
notice
a
anything while
layover,
you're at the
basically.
train station?
No.
Okay. Because I think that's where like the biggest airport is. I think Salerno has a small airport, but most flights, if you're like flying into Italy to like do Amalfi Coast, you'd
Oh,
probably
definitely
fly
fly in
into
Naples.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But it's not
Don't
like,
stay there. Just
yeah,
like
it
once you
wouldn't
fly
be
in,
like,
get out.
yeah, exactly. I think they were like saying like how we stayed in Salerno because it was cheaper, even though it was a little further away. They were like, don't do the same and stay in Naples.
Gotcha.
Kinda
Okay.
thing.
Good to know. Yeah.
Yeah. But like I said, I haven't seen Naples, so I don't want to like talk badly about it when I like don't even really know.
It's probably
but
just
that's
because
what
it's
I've
a
heard.
bigger city than the others. So
Yeah.
it's just like any bigger city, it's going to have some more spots that are a little bit sketchier than these like
Yeah.
quaint little towns.
Yeah, it's not as like isolated as the
Yeah.
other towns on the coast. So
Okay.
yeah, maybe a little more riffraff. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, speaking of riffraff, did you guys like do nightlife while you were there, or is there like none?
Well, we were planning on it. We had places that we like really wanted to go to, but because of the whole bus thing, it was
that
like
just
too hard to
prolonged
get back
things.
at night. It just really delayed everything and like kind of changed plans a lot.
Sure.
So there isn't really anything in Salerno, but we wanted to go to this place in Positano called Music on the Rocks. And I am like, this is my biggest regret of like things I didn't get to do when I did this trip because I really wanted to go see this place. It's a club carved into a waterfront cliff. So it's
Oh my
literally a club
gosh.
in a cave.
Wow.
And it is so cool. And it
Did
also
you guys
has
like see it on TikTok or Instagram or something?
yeah, we saw, yeah.
Okay.
One of my friends saw it on TikTok, but I've seen it on Instagram and
Music
lots
on the
of
Rocks.
people have been
is
there.
what it's
Yeah,
called?
Music on the
Okay.
Rocks is what it's called. It also has a restaurant. So like if you're not trying to like go out and
Right.
like go clubbing, go to the restaurant just to like experience it and see it because it looks so cool. And people have also said like because it's in the cave, like the acoustics of the music are like
Oh,
super cool because
wow.
everything like echoes and like I wanted to go to this so bad and we were all so sad that it like didn't work out because all of our plans got delayed, but
Yeah.
it
That
looks
sounds so
awesome.
cool.
I know. But definitely if you're staying in Positano, whether you just like want a nice dinner or whether you're like trying to get after it at night, go to Music on the Rocks. Looks so amazing and I'll be so jealous of you if you go.
Yeah, send us your pictures so that Hallie can live through you.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so what else is there to do? Like just going like to the beaches and stuff? Or are there excursions that you know of that you can do like from the coast towns or?
Yeah, so the island of Capri is like right off of the Amalfi Coast. So that's something you could do. They do like boat rides to Capri for the day if you like want to explore that, which would have been awesome. If we had more time there, I definitely would have liked to do that. Pompeii is also really close to the Naples area. So that's another day trip that a lot of people do from the Amalfi Coast is to go see like the ruins of Pompeii, which I also would have loved to do, but just didn't have enough time. There's also a lot of private boat tours that go from town to town. So if you don't like, let's say you're staying in Positano, but you like don't want to deal with the ferries or whatever, you can get like private boats that'll take you to see all the little towns and cute little
Yeah.
spots. A lot of those have like food and drink on them too, so that would be super
Oh,
fun.
yeah, that would be so fun.
And then, like I said, since we rode the bus, I got to see like a lot of the smaller towns that I probably wouldn't have seen from the water, but there's some really, really cool architecture in these towns, like super old churches and just like I said, it's a very historical area.
Right.
And so there's tons of really cool buildings and things to see that if you have the time and you do end up like kind of doing like the hike from town to town on the road, like that would be super cool just to like a little adventure stop when you
Right.
see things that look interesting and then keep walking. And there's a lot to see and a lot to do.
Okay, so we had a listener question or a listener response that they said they are going to Positano for their honeymoon. So congrats. So excited.
Yay!
What are your thoughts on that?
100%. When I was in Positano, that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, oh my gosh, imagine honeymooning here. It was just so romantic. There were so many couples there, and like these resorts just look so nice, and it's so just like a little Italian honeymoon. Like, of all the places that I went in Italy, this definitely would be like my recommendation for a romantic getaway for sure. It was
Yeah.
so cool.
Oh, it seems like it would be. Okay. So what else like specifically about Salerno? Because you probably like spent the most time there. So is there anything else there that you like, I don't know, anything notable that you want to share or thoughts on that?
Yeah, so we ended up spending a little more time in Salerno than we initially intended because of the whole ferry situation.
Right.
But it honestly was great. We liked our small little home base, our little town. There was a super nice boardwalk that like went along the whole coast that you could walk on.
Oh,
It honestly
nice.
felt very safe. There was a lot of like kids and families and just like felt like a authentic little Italian town.
Yeah, that's cool that you got to experience that.
Yeah, and there was a lot of local beaches because it's still right on the coast. So you can still get your beach time, and it's the benefit is that there's way less people there. So whereas like in Amalfi and Positano, any beach that you would go to was literally like packed full.
Right.
There's like no open sand anywhere. These beaches were way less crowded. So
Yeah,
it was kind of
nice.
nice. I had the best cannoli of my entire Italian experience in
Wow.
Salerno, which I don't know if I just like wasn't going to the right places in Rome, but yeah, the cannoli I had in Salerno was better than the cannolis I had in Rome. So I don't know if Salerno's known for their cannolis. I don't think they are, but
I feel like in Rome it would probably be easier to go to more of like a touristy place that wouldn't have the most like authentic cannolis, whereas Salerno, I'm sure everywhere that you can get a cannoli there, it's gonna be
right, because it's not like a
authentic
touristy town.
Italian. Yeah, exactly. So
yeah.
I believe that.
Oh my gosh, it was so good.
I still dream about the cannoli that I had in Venice. Randomly got the best cannoli there, and I still can picture it. It was so good. So
that's
I can
like
relate.
the food that I miss most is literally the cannoli I had in Salerno. Like, not the pasta, not the gelato. It's the cannoli.
Yeah.
So good.
Life changing.
It was actually like I'm being so dramatic, but it was so good. Okay, but then also our last night there, which was August 6th, we're like, me and my friends are walking on the little boardwalk, enjoying the sunset, and it is packed. Like, there are people everywhere. And I'm pretty sure it was like a Saturday or a Sunday night. I can't remember. But so we're like, maybe people are just out because it's like the weekend. Like, I don't know. But like, there were people everywhere.
And this is still in Salerno.
This is in Salerno,
okay,
yeah.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden, fireworks start going off like everywhere, and people are shooting off
fireworks.
Yeah. This time it was at night though, so that was good. I didn't think I was getting shot at, but yeah. So the fireworks start going off. There were like smoke, like colored like smoke things. What are those called? I'm blanking.
I have no idea what.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Like, you know, at like football games or like soccer games and they do like smoke and it's like colored and they come out of those like wands
Oh,
and people like
yeah.
wave them
Okay.
around.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what
So
those are
there was
called.
like, I don't either. But there was like a bunch of pink smoke and all these fireworks going off and everybody's like cheering and going crazy. So it's like clearly some kind of festival holiday and
Right.
we are like in the middle of it and have absolutely no idea what's going on. So we're like looking it up online and we're like holidays August 6th, like Italy, can't find anything. So to this day, we still have no idea what it was. And we thought it was like, there's a lot of like patron saint celebrations in the summer in Italy.
Okay.
And so we thought it was one of those, but like there were none listed for August 6th. So we still have no idea. So if you happen to know anything about holidays or festivals in Italy and you know what this would have been on August 6th,
Yeah,
let us know. Because I'm still very curious and to this day do not know what it was.
Yeah, let us know if anybody knows what this would have been. That's interesting.
August 6th.
Yeah.
That's all I got for you.
And this was this past summer, so 2023. Yeah, let us know. I still hope to get to the Amalfi Coast someday. I need to do like a full Italy trip because like I've said before, I've only been to Venice and Milan in Italy. So I need to do like all the things, Rome, Como, all these things that you've done that I definitely need to experience.
Well, this officially ends my Italian cities. I've talked about every single one. So
yeah,
that's all I got for you guys until I go back. But
I know.
Probably not going to be soon. So.
Yeah. Well, because if you go back to Europe, you'll probably go somewhere else first. That's like the tough part. I feel like you could truly do like a month in Italy and still like
oh my
feel
gosh,
like you didn't
so
even
much
get to do everything. So.
Yeah, well, like we were in the Amalfi Coast and didn't even get to see like Pompeii and Capri and like all the things that there are to do literally right there, let alone in the rest of the country. Right. So it's crazy. Yeah.
Okay, well, you guys, thanks for listening. As always, if you have been a strong listener to our podcast and a supporter of us, we would love if you could rate us on Apple Podcasts and leave us a review there as well. It means so much to us, gives us the motivation to keep doing this and keep giving you guys content. So follow us on Instagram at Love It There Pod. Subscribe to our YouTube. We are still having a little bit of issues with our video content, so can't promise if this will ever even make it up on YouTube. Hopefully it will. We're still working on our San Francisco episode, so we'll keep you guys updated there if you are a YouTube watcher. But for now, the audio stuff should be fine. Don't forget to check out our website. The link is in our podcast description, and it's also linked on our Instagram.
I think that's it. I hope you guys